Hello, welcome to Soulprint Insights. Thank you so much for being here. To my new subscribers, welcome to the Soulprint experience. For my established subscribers, I'm so grateful for your support, your comments, your likes, your thumbs up, your shares. It's all fabulous. So thank you very, very much. And so my last video, which actually got a really good response, was called Angels Let's Talk. Well, so today I'm going to do a direct channeling called Angels, Why Can't I Hear You? Because that's actually a really big problem, right? Is we are sending out these requests and these questions, and sometimes it feels like we really are just met with unbelievable silence. So I'm going to, have a little chit chat with the angels here and see if they can give us some guidance or some insight on kind of why there are times when we just can't make that connection with them. As usual, all channeled information is copyrighted under my personal name. For those of you wondering, Atticus is asleep right there, and I think I can show you their Skittles doing his thing. I'm surrounded by good little animals. Here we go. Why is it that there are times that despite our best efforts, it can be difficult, if not impossible, to hear the divine response to the questions we ask or the concerns we voice? We once again are very, very happy for the opportunity to be able to share our wisdom, our guidance, and insights with you. It is a really good question, and the answers are many. So let us start with kind of the basics. Very often, people are unable to hear or recognize the response given by the angels. Very often, angel communications are really quite subtle. They don't announce their presence with a big brass band as much as they announce their presence with a whisper. And so sometimes that can make it difficult if people are not sort of still. And still does not mean that you go into a meditative state and you don't leave until you get an answer. Still means just simply allowing energy and thoughts to just come into your environment and move through your environment. Very often, angels communicate with numbers. Repetitive numbers can be very helpful. And angel numbers are not the same as sort of numerology numbers. There is a very good resource. There's a very good resource. It's a book written by Doreen Virtue called Angel Numbers. And so what she has done is she has given sort of the meanings of number combinations. So if you start getting a repetitive number over and over and over again, it is a message, it is a signal. One of the most common ones is 111, right? Every time you turn around, you're seeing 111, whether it's 111 or 1101, but you're constantly seeing those numbers. Those numbers represent the need to monitor your thoughts and ensure that your thoughts are about what it is you desire versus what it is you don't. And the warning or the flashing of the 111 tells you that you really need to monitor your thoughts more carefully and ensure that you are staying in the most positive place. Angels will also use repetitive songs, repetitive thoughts that go round and round in your head, not to be confused with any thoughts that are dangerous, debilitating, or harmful. They will often use animals, butterflies and dragonflies. Ladybugs are another favorite. They like to use hawks, doves, and magpies. So you're wanting to watch out for things that are sort of ordinary, but in the moment, extraordinary. Those are often ways that messages are given. You will also receive messages in your dreams. You will receive messages from other people who will say, I don't know why I have to tell you this, but, or I just came across this article or whatever, and I really feel I need to share it with you. Those are very, very often the signals of angelic or divine communication. So part of it is simply kind of an awareness or a lack of sort of that insight to look at a situation or look at something and say, this is common, this is normal. There's butterflies around me, in my yard all the time. Now, is it common for a butterfly to sit on the arm of the chair that I'm sitting in and stay there for 5 minutes? Yeah, maybe that's not so common. It's that kind of subtlety that you're looking for. Now, that is not to suggest that angels make you work really hard to hear them. Oftentimes, this inability for clear communication in both directions can actually be resolved by making some very clear requests. So, for example, you might want to say, can you please, answer this question? And you need to be careful, because sometimes if you're going to ask a yes or no question, that can be sort of an easier fix or an easier communion, if you will. And then you can actually ask for specific things that you feel might be helpful, and hopefully they will be able to energetically meet that need. So perhaps you might say, I love watching the night sky. I absolutely love watching the night sky. So maybe if the answer to my question is a yes, perhaps the next time I go outside and I'm watching the night sky, I am going to see several shooting stars. Maybe I'll see 3 of them. 3 is also a magic number. Very often messages come to you in threes when they're coming from a divine plane. So you'll hear the same song 3 times within 3 or 4 days. You'll see the same sequence of numbers. You'll see the same sort of thoughts rolling around in your head, or the same kind of messages. Maybe sometimes somebody suggests a book that you might like to read, and then you see somebody else talking about that book, maybe on a television program, or maybe within your circle of friends. And then a couple days later, you walk into a bookstore and you sort of immediately gravitate towards that book. Those are answers, those are messages. It is a more subtle form of communications, but you can certainly ask for clarity of thoughts, for answers coming to you that are not, flashing yeses and flashing nos. In addition to that, it is very important that you understand that there are times when the answer to a question is no answer at all. And part of the reason for that is that the answer cannot be given because it would infringe on your own free will. So let's say, for example, you have been offered a job and you really need a job, but when you talk to these people, when you go for your interviews, whatever that is, it feels good, but there's just something that doesn't quite feel right. And you ask the angels for an answer. Should I take this job? And you receive a yes or a no. What that does is it removes your free will to follow your instincts to make a decision. Because let's face it, generally speaking, if you receive divine guidance and it says, yes, take the job, by and large, people will submerge their gut instinct saying something isn't right, and they'll go ahead and take that job. And while that job may be a really, okay for 2 months, 6 months, whatever it is, in the long term, it really is not a good fit. But by giving you an answer that is binary, yes or no, it could very well influence the decisions you make. And as you well know, angels can only dramatically step in and make significant shifts or changes when your life is in mortal danger. Other than that, the rule of free will supersedes all. So sometimes you need to be mindful that the questions you are asking are questions that you yourself should be answering. Now, that does not mean that you cannot reach out to your angels and say, angels, I'm facing a really difficult decision. I ask that you bring clarity to me, that you help me find my confidence, help me to hear my thoughts and my heart clearly. And you will receive that help whether you actually consciously recognize it or not. Now, additionally to that, very often, particularly it seems to be more prevalent in this day of your instant technology, the species as a whole on the planet, humans, have gotten very used to these rapid fire responses. And, angels aren't really hooked up to the internet, okay? So sometimes it could take a day or two for you to get an answer. And that is if you're really mindful and alert and aware and looking for answers. Now, there are some really great things that you can do to help move things along. For example, you can ask the angels, for example, you might say to them, angels, if I am following my path, and if I am really doing okay, and I'm following my soul print, and things are going generally really well on the path I am on, would you please send me feathers so that I understand that in fact I am on the right path? Now, you may get feathers in actual reality. You might find one on the ground or wherever. sometimes in your home. Um, but you may also see pictures of feathers, you know, books that have feathers on it, cards that come to you with feathers, etc. So again, you have to be really alert to what is going on around you, because if you're saying I would like feathers as an affirmative and you were only looking for feathers that are real and literally come from a bird, um well, it may just be in that moment in time that there are no such feathers that are available. And so you get sent the messages in another way. But because you have it, you're laser focused on receiving a physical feather, you miss all the other ones that are being sent to you in answer to your question. So probably the primary thing to understand is that when you talk to your angels, it really is intended to be a two-way conversation. Um, and that happens best if you treat the communications literally like that, like a conversation. There are times you can get really good at hearing your angels, and you almost literally can have a real time conversation with them. Sometimes you will hear their words, sometimes you will actually visually see their words or responses that help guide you and give you the actual answers. Now, we then come to one of the other biggest hurdles that happens when you're trying to hear your angels. So, first of all, you cannot be so wrapped up in the answer that when the answer comes, you doubt or question that you have actually received it. And that happens far more often than you realize. Very often, that communication really does happen almost in the solar plexus. Sometimes it, of course, happens in the third eye. But there is there is a tendency that if you are receiving affirmative news, good news, you will tend to question it. Where you will accept negative news or bad news almost instantaneously. This is an indicator of several things, but one is that you are not living in a balanced state. You are literally expecting or anticipating bad news or rejection. The other side of that, of course, is the extreme where you will only ever accept or hear that which is positive, affirming, and is exactly in step with your thoughts. Both taken to extremes are counterproductive and frankly counterintuitive when you are trying to set up an ongoing dialogue with the divine. So it is very important that when you send out a request or a question, that you ensure that you are in a headspace that allows you to accept and easily receive those answers, those responses. So understand that there are times that there may be no answer because it's not theirs to give. There may be answers that take a little while to show up. And there may be answers that are instantaneous. And for most people who have clear communications with angels and divine forces, it is a combination of all of those. The angels and the divine are infinitely more clever and more creative than you on earth can be, simply because you live in a place that is heavy. There is a denseness, and it can it can sort of impact your ability to sort of hit that very, very clear vibration. The reality boils down to this, my dear ones. It takes patience. It takes practice. It takes trust. Trust in the messages you receive. Trust that you are getting the right messages, the highest vibrational messages, and trust that you are believing the messages you receive, that you trust the communications you get. For those of you who are intuitive or psychic, you can understand that sense of, I just know this. I just know it. What you are just knowing is that you have developed a sense of trust to the impressions and the messages that you receive, that you ultimately then, share with somebody, or, however that communication happens. It is developing that sense of simply trust that the information comes to you, whether it is internal or external, is the message and the answer that you need to receive, or that can be received in this moment in time. So you might want to look at your expectations in terms of hearing an answer versus the things that go on around you that you're actually not paying enough attention to receive. We don't mean to imply that the fault is yours. There are times, particularly with the heavy vibrations, and especially these days, because what is simultaneously happening is, on the one hand, there is this thinning of the veil as you move further and further into the fifth dimension. And for clarity, you are in the process of the fifth dimension. It is not something that is far off. It is at hand now. But like all things, it is a step-by-step process. It's not a kind of a big moment. It's step by step by step, which, if you think about it, is really how life, by and large, unfolds. But simultaneous with that, there is a lot of fear-based energy out there right now. There is a lot of anxiety, a lot of stress and worry, physical, financial, mental, in terms of health. And so the two can often kind of clash in a way that can really make hearing those answers difficult. And again, that is where practice and trust come into play. We suggest, for those of you who are really having a difficult time, that you might want to consider even using some sort of a divination tool, because angels will work well with pendulums. Angels will often communicate through oracle cards, not tarot cards, but oracle cards. There are all kinds of ways to receive messages. And so if you are not receiving the messages that you are seeking, perhaps it is time to kind of expand your repertoire and maybe bring in some tools that can help make that connection clearer, so that over time you you just know, you intuitively, instinctively know that the messages I am receiving are from my angels, or they are from the divine, or they are from an ascended master, because you get used to that feeling as you were working with a divination tool. So that is also something that we strongly encourage you to consider. We are hoping as a first step that this has provided you with some insight, some guidance, and some answers. And we look forward to the next video that is being put out, as we will assist and guide in a channeled meditation to connect with your angels. And so we ask and hope that you look forward to that and join, that video, watch that video, and see if that in and of itself could prove helpful. We are so grateful and so appreciative for the support, the opportunity that we as a soul group, Masudias, are able to share this information and these insights with you. And we do not stand alone. We work with archangels, ascended masters, spirit guides, guardian angels. We are all of a kind, and we are all always supporting you. At this time, we remain Masudius. I hope you found that helpful. I'm going to wrap this up because, one, I need to find out why Tika's barking her head off. And I don't think I have anything to add. So I'm really looking forward to Thursday. I'm hoping you will be too. And until then, stand in your energy. Bye for now.